Sometimes you might wonder, well, how do you come up with various sermon topics? Well, that's kind of an interesting subject. A lot of times it comes from interactions with people. It comes with studying generally in the Word of God. Sometimes it comes directly from members making a request. The lesson today is from a comment made by Brother Barry Serio last week in Bible class. He quoted James 4:17, therefore to him that knoweth to do good and doeth it not, to him it is sin. And I thought, well, that's really a good subject. That's really what life as a Christian is about. It's knowing what's the good thing and then doing it. And if we fail to do that which we know to do, then it's a violation of God's law. The book of James is a short, practical letter, barely 5 chapters. It just takes a few moments to read, and I mean literally a few moments. You can spend a lifetime meditating upon it, but it doesn't take but just a few minutes. And it talks and answers the question, what is faith, and how is your faith demonstrated? If you look at the author, it's James, a servant of God and brother of Jesus, writing to the church. James, the other James, the Apostle James, has already been killed by Herod. The audience is those who are scattered abroad. It's those who are Christians from a Jewish background from all over the Greco-Roman world. The theme is real faith, the living faith, and that a real faith proves itself in what we actually do on a day-to-day basis. You've often heard the statement, I'd rather see a Christian than hear about one any day. And I agree with that statement. I a whole lot rather see somebody live for Christ than have someone tell me about their faith in Christ. Not that I'm opposed to hearing of one's faith, but a faith that's demonstrated is by far the greater and stronger faith. James 4:17, so whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, for him it is sin. That's from the ESV. Knowing and doing the right thing. So how that happens, what happens? Faith works. We find other passages in the book of James that illustrate the same principle. So also faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead, being alone. And you can think back to the great men and women of faith. Rahab was a woman who put her life at risk to entertain the spies going into Jericho. You find Moses built an ark. You find that Moses also, when he came of years, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter. You think about Abraham. He offered his son. Abraham also left when God said go. Belief and behavior in the scriptures are never meant to be separated. And the concept that men developed, that all you have to do is simply believe, was never a part of God's law and never was a proper understanding of Scripture. The only way you could come up with a conclusion that your actual actions have nothing to do with your faith is by basically hearing something, believing it, and interpreting the rest of the Bible around it. From Genesis to Revelation, it makes a difference what you do. And faith is demonstrated by what we do. A faith that only talks cannot feed the hungry. Ever thought about that? Have somebody just say, oh, there's hungry people over there, you be filled. If you don't do anything, nobody is fed. You have somebody that needs clothing, and you just say, well, be clothed. That pronouncement doesn't take care of the need. It takes actual action. And so for people to be fed, for people to be clothed, many times it takes a lot of people doing a lot of work trying to gather the things necessary, to disperse the things necessary. And sometimes we have people that overreact. Martin Luther overreacted to the sale of indulgences in the century that he lived in. And so he said, works can't earn salvation. And in the context that he was speaking of, he was correct. The sale of indulgences, the sale by the Roman Catholic Church of the 16th and 17th century, and the ability to go ahead and sin, and you buy the right to do that, was something that was shameful. And people that taught that should have been ashamed of themselves. But the overreaction to say that faith and works are completely unrelated is not a part of Scripture. So works don't earn salvation. No matter how much I do, I'm still unworthy of eternal salvation in heaven with God. It took the blood of God's Son that we've been singing about, that we remembered this morning. And if you notice, the songs that we sang this morning were in progression. We were singing songs leading to the cross, and they were reflecting upon the cross. And it's important that we do that in life. We see all the things that God has done to save us, and then what we do to stay and get in that relationship and stay in that relationship with it. Faith, though, should be alive. It should be active. We find in James chapter 2 and verse 14, the question is asked, person that says they have faith but they don't act, can faith save you? And it's one of those rhetorical questions. Obviously not. Obviously, a person that says and does not do has not got the picture of what God's mind. So somewhere between that and the concept we earn our salvation is an active, obedient faith where we strive to do the will of God, realizing that we're sinful creatures, that we've done things that are wrong, we've thought things that are wrong, and we need the blood of God's Son to save us. Here, an undefiled religion is mentioned in James 1:27. And what it is to visit the orphans and widows in their affliction and to keep oneself unspotted from the world. Now, visit here doesn't mean you just stop by and say, hey, how you doing? The idea of visiting, as it's used in this context, has the idea of meeting the needs. Ever go by your grandmother's house and say, if you need anything, call me? Folks, if you go by grandma's house and grandma's living alone, there's always things that need to be done. My cousin Bruce was buried this past week. And Bruce, what I remember about him is not the young child, he's my age. I remember as a child, he was a good young man. He and his brother were Cain and Abel, and he was Abel. Daryl had a rough life. As you look at as he grew and matured, had a lot of family, a lot of uncles, a lot of cousins. But Bruce was unique. He did not live in the little small area of Shrewsbury, Kentucky, where much of the family did, big family. Didn't even live in Litchfield. He lived either in Louisville, where his dad worked with mine at Ford Motor Company, and later years he lived in the area of Bowling Green. But when Bruce went to Grandma's house, he got fed real well, and he loved that. But Bruce cut the grass. He changed the light bulbs. And over a period of years, Grandma became so dependent on Bruce that anybody else that came, oh, there's nothing that needs to be done around here. But when Bruce came, there was a list about this long, because Bruce not only worked, but he worked with a good attitude, and she felt like it was a great mutual relationship. She gave him a couch to sleep on, and lonely times in life, he had a place. And when he was hungry, he came in and she fed him. He was a worker. He was someone who sought to do good. Now, don't ever ask Ronnie or ask me if there's anything that needs to be done around this church building unless you're sincere, because otherwise you're going to be real disappointed. Because what Ronnie's probably going to say, and what I for sure have, yes, there's something you can do. And I will probably say, yeah, there's some windows out front. that are needing it pretty bad. There's a door that's got some spider webs. One brother asked something about something he could do, and he got to clean out this entire row of trees. There are things always to be done, just like at the house. That's just physical stuff. The same is true spiritually. If you don't just look around and see people that have needs, then you need to just talk to a few more people. Dana Miller, I was supposed to have announced today, he's gone for 3 weeks. Dana's a new member. Dana, if she's watching, sorry, but I'm going to use her as an example, and sometimes you just got to be used as an example. Dana lost her husband. She's got cancer. She's in recovery. She's rebuilding a life. And Dana is a fine person. She's visiting some friends down in Florida that invited her to come down. But if you want to do good, you can send her a card. You can give her a call. And I just use that as one of many, many people. There are things and people that need a word of encouragement every single day of every single year. You don't have to do all of it, but faith without works is dead. Find something, find somebody. And there may be many, many things that I miss, but there are many, many things that are needed pretty much by any individual. If you look in the local church and there's nobody that you can encourage, uplift, look outside the local church. There's somebody in your neighborhood that just needs a kind word. There's some child in your neighborhood that just needs somebody to encourage them, not yell at them. There's somebody that has an economic need in your community that is striving. And a lot of times the people with needs are not those out broadcasting it or holding up a sign. It's somebody that quietly goes about trying to live their life and usually aren't going to tell you that they have any need unless you're able to look and see. Doing good, visiting the needs. That's a good place to start. Meeting the needs of those who are orphans, those who are widows, those who are afflicted in various ways. Care for those who are overlooked. Who do you know that doesn't get any attention? Who do you know that actually you can help? And the Bible is filled with examples of people that had need. And one of the great parables of Jesus had to do with the scribe and the Pharisee, or the priest and the Levite, rather, who walked by on the other side when a man's laying out and has been beaten nearly to death. They didn't want to get their hands dirty. They had other places to go, things to do. And there was a Samaritan who was despised generally, who went by and stopped. And he met the needs, and he kept on meeting the needs. Several years ago, when I was at the West Fayette congregation, pretty good drive, we ended up using the 385 going toward Bartlett. We had a blowout on the road. And if you've ever had a blowout at night, it's a little bit of a scary experience. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know who's going to come by. And you don't know if your jack's going to be working, or is, depending on where you are in life, if you've got the strength to get it working. Well, the time we stopped, there was a Hispanic young man who stopped almost immediately. And of course, he came out with a gun and robbed us, right? No, he got out of his truck. He walked back, saw what we needed, and said, "Let me change that tire for you." And he changed the tire, put it on the car, offered to give him something just for his time. No, thank you. He just wanted to help. You know, I forgot to ask his immigration status. You ever thought about that? I don't know if it's legal or illegal. All I know is I was on the side of the road and I had real concern whether I'd be able to get that change without getting myself and my wife run over or not. And don't get me wrong, I'm not, this is a sermon about immigration, but it's a sermon about kindness, a sermon about putting to practice what you have in life. I thought about that later. Why in the world did he stop to help me? Well, maybe I looked old. I don't know. Maybe I looked like it. Maybe he'd been on the side of the road at some time in life in a broken down car, and he knew what it was like to be on the side of the road. You might have a spare, you might not have a spare. It may need air, it might not have any air at all in it. I just use that as an example. We need to care for those that we have the opportunity to meet the needs. We don't need to hold up a sign saying, I did a good deed. There are plenty of things that need to be done. If we want to benefit from God, we don't want to advertise it. We don't want to be like the hypocrite was as he prayed and honored himself and dishonored the poor man. True worship tells us to keep a soft heart toward people. Now, if you've lived very long in this world, some of you have, some of you haven't. You've got all the reason you'll ever need to be angry and be bitter. At some point in time, somebody has messed you over, and maybe several times. Or you can look at it and have a good attitude toward people. There have been people that were good to me when they had no reason to be. I think about my parents. You know, I could sit here and I could write a book and just be critical of who they were and where they came from. Or I could be thankful and grateful they taught me the truth of God. And they strive to help me in every aspect of my life. But it's all in your perspective. You can grow up in the same home and love your parents. You can grow up in the same home and despise your parents. You can love your brothers and sisters. You can despise them. And it's not necessarily what they've done or haven't done. A whole lot of the times, it's what your attitude has been about it all along. Care for the overlooked, the orphan, the widow, the forgotten. Be kind to those that you deal with on a daily basis. Keep a soft heart toward people, realizing that people sin. Ever heard how people refer to each other? Interesting. I had a conversation yesterday with someone I've known for nearly 40 years. And she was asking about a couple of people, but she asked about them in the most negative way that you possibly can, bringing up the lowest moment in their life. Or is that so and so? And I thought about that at the time. What a terrible attitude to live when we think of another person, to be thinking of nothing about them at their weakest moment. None of us want to be there. We want to think about people and the good they've done, the things they've strived to do to help, the times they've changed. We sure don't want to look at other people with a negative, down our nose attitude. Fortunately, the person's not a member of this church here. They're not in any way related to anybody here. So you don't have to, oh, you know, talk about, I'm not talking about you. But that attitude we see in life. We have that attitude. Don't be that. We need to have a good heart. And if you really want someone to change, they usually have to feel like they're loved by you if they're going to change. If they feel that you don't care or that you're going to hate them no matter what, they're probably not going to change, at least not based on what you or I do. We need to keep our hands clean from sin. We talked about in class this morning, as we looked at the teachings of Jesus, to keep a pure heart. And we looked at our passage at the beginnings. Therefore, to him that knows to do good and does not do it, to him it's sin. Do the right thing with the right attitude, and we'll draw closer to God and he'll draw closer to us. We also have something built in. God has given every one of us a conscience. And if we follow what we believe to be right, we typically feel pretty good about who we are. But if we don't do what we know to be the right thing to do, we look in the mirror and it's really hard to look at ourselves. James also talks about that, looking into the perfect law of liberty and continuing in. He talks about the man who looks and forgets who he is. Don't ever forget who you are, where you came from, and your need for Jesus Christ. We need to be hearers of the word, but we need to be doers. James 1:22, but be doers of the word and not hearers only. What happens if we hear but don't do? We deceive ourselves. I've been deceived a time or two in life. You probably have as well. That's not the worst kind of deception. The worst kind of deception is being deceived ourselves, to think something and be wrong. The hearer glances in the mirror and forgets what he saw. The doer looks intently, remembering and acting and being blessed in the doing. I've learned something in life. The person who can change my life most is the same person who can change your life most. It's the person in the mirror. Very little change occurs without personal introspection and personal involvement. And so the message today is a message to me, at least as much as it is to you. Look in the mirror, see what needs improvement, and benefit from it. Sometimes you just don't see. I'm going to use a real crude example here, but it'll make the point. You probably won't forget it. Every once in a while, someone very near and dear to my heart says, you need to look in the mirror. And I know what that means. And I look in the mirror, there are nose hairs. That if the hair on my head grew like the nose hairs do, life would be wonderful. But if you look in the mirror, sometimes I even have to put glasses on to see those nose hairs. Then you can do something about it. But if you don't know they're there, you're not likely to change. Obvious to everybody else. Sometimes when I shave, I miss two little spots right underneath the nose. And, the other extreme is you kept your nose off. But that's not a good thing either. But sometimes it takes intently looking in the mirror to see ourselves as we really are. And so I hope you excuse that rather crude example, but it makes the point. Sometimes you have to look pretty carefully to really see what's there. I'll tell you something about myself. I like to shave and not even look in the mirror. And that's sometimes as obvious. You see a strip missing sometimes. That means I wouldn't look in the mirror at all. We need to look in the mirror much more something other than just for that which is physical. We think about our message today. The goal is not for you to go out and say, that's a really good message. Hopefully today you go out and say, I need to take a little more self-examination. I need to look at myself. And if you go out and it causes one person to actually look and say, there's some things I could do. There's some things I could do to help around the house. There's some things I could do to help at the church. There's some things I could do to encourage someone else. There's something I might be able to do to make this a better community. If we do that, then we will have benefited by our time together. The wisdom from above is talked about in James chapter 3, verses 13 through 17. That's the wisdom, gaining good conduct based on the works and wisdom of God. Heavenly wisdom is defined in James 3, 13 through 17 as that which is pure, peaceable, gentle, and open to reason. It's full of mercy and good fruits, visible, tangible good. Also, there's the other side of that. There's some things that are not a part of the wisdom from above that's earthly, sensual, devilish. Serves no useful purpose for God or for anyone else. It's highly critical. And if that's the attitude we have, we will not do the things that please God. So know the good and do the good is the simple message today. Some points. Ask, what good do I already know I should do? And what do I need to do today? Secondly, take one concrete step. Don't say, I'm going to convert the whole world. Talk to one person about their soul. Don't say, I'm going to feed all the hungry in Memphis. I want to help somebody as I take opportunity. Don't say, I'm going to encourage everybody. Find somebody you can help, like Barnabas helped Saul, helped Paul, and later on helped John Mark. Let obedience become a steady pattern, not a one-time act. What can I do? Whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, for him it is sin. The invitation is yours. If you need to respond, we invite you to come as we sing Zion's Call.